Grand Rising family, Grand Rising. Today is the day that we take the trip to the Bacon's Castle, and I'm very excited. I got it scheduled for 2:30 today, but I want to go ahead and hold on. I'm back. I'm very excited because at 2:30 today we're gonna be at the Bacon's house and we're gonna be investigating like we did the Meyer. I keep forgetting the name. The Myers, the Myers house. Yeah. But anyway, so I wanted to go over a brief history of this. This house, this particular castle is very rich in history as far as Nubian people, and AKA African American, AKA Black people. We have a lot of rich heritage in this castle. Um, the man rebelled, the man that took over the house that is named after, he's not the original person that lived in this house. He was an invader. He invaded other people that lived in this house and he rebelled against the government. Doesn't that sound like Trump? But he rebelled on a local level here in Virginia. But that sounds like Trump, right? But he wasn't president. Bacon wasn't president at the time, but he was definitely against the governor of Virginia. And he was standing his stance, and he had his reasons. And we're going to find out in this history that I'm about to read. But, one thing I learned in my research is that the families, they have a get together. The African American families, the families that were invaded, and also the family that invaded. Bacon's family, they all still get together and they go to this place and they do memorials. So let's get into the story of the Bacon Castle. Okay. Arthur Allen first patented land which became a part of Bacon Castle on March the 14th, 1650. He received 200 acres for the transportation of 3 servants and Alice Tucker, who either was or would shortly become his wife. Where Allen came from, why he came to Virginia, when he arrived, and how he obtained his money are all mysteries. Arthur Allen first appeared in the records in 1650 with the land patent. Now, we know that this land was probably more than likely taken from the native, aka African American, aka Black people. He was appointed one of the justices of the peace for Surrey County. So that's where we're going to be driving down to. We're going to be driving little, what they call towards the south to Surrey County. When it was formed in 1652, but that was the only political office he held. He was one of the wealthiest men in the county and may have been the wealthiest. He was probably probably one of the merchant planters common in Tidewater, Virginia in the mid 17th century. As he was referred to as Arthur Allen, merchant, in a deed in 1656. On October the 3rd, 1661, Allen purchased 500 acres from John and Peighton Dustin. The sons and heirs of John Dustin, between Lord Chipokes and Lawns Creek adjoining his other land. 4 years later, Arthur Allen built his magnificent brick home, Bacon's Castle, on this tract. It was 1665, and he was 57 years old. Why he built such an elegant house in the wilds of Virginia when he was relatively old man is unknown. Well, I know why I would do it, and it'd probably take that age before I get my land to do that. And I would still do it because to me, it's nothing like living in the country and having those acres or having land. It's and actually have been able to go to rest on your own land. That's something to just think about. Also unknown are the models Allen used to design his house, the names of the builders and workmen, and how long it took to complete the house. Arthur Allen did not live to enjoy his house. He made his will on March the 10th, 1669, and died about 3 months later. He left Bacon's Castle to his son Arthur in entail. Presumably, he gave other legacies to his daughters Joanne, Mary, and Elizabeth. Arthur Allen II, usually known as Major Allen, was born about 1651. He was charged with the taxes for Bacon Castles as early as 1670, and he was mentioned several times in records in the next few years. In 1675, at the age of 24, Governor Berkeley appointed him a justice of the peace of the Surrey County Court. Allen was a firm supporter of Governor and Bacon's rebellion. Allen was present at the fateful court session of August 10, 1676, when the Surrey justices voted to send supplies to the rebel Nathaniel Bacon. He must have opposed the decision, and shortly thereafter, he hid his silver, left his home, and followed Governor Berkeley. He was at Jamestown when Bacon attacked and burnt the town, and he later became one of Berkeley's most trusted officers. He was Captain Allen by late November 1676, and he led some of the attacks on rebels from one of the ships in York River in front of West Point. In the meantime, much happened at Bacon's Castle. On Friday, September the 15th, 1676, John Finley, Allen's overseer, returned home on horseback from Jamestown, where he had been visiting with Allen. Joseph Rogers, one of Bacon's supporters, arrested him almost within sight of Bacon's Castle. Rogers questioned Finley, then released him. Before Finley rode half a mile further on, Rogers and other Baconian supporters rearrested Finley, disarmed him, and stole his horse. In time, Finley was sent to Charles City County, where he was imprisoned for the next 11 weeks. 3 days later, on September the 18th, on Monday evening, 70 of Bacon's followers, led by William Rookins, Arthur Long, Allen's brother-in-law, Robert Burgess, Joseph Rogers, and William Simmons, seized, occupied, and garrisoned Bacon's castle. So this is when they took over the castle that they belonged to someone else, but they named it Bacon's Castle. And he took it over for a short period of time during the rebellion. They went about with a military bearing, complete with officers' ranks. Rookins was commander, Rogers was lieutenant, Long was captain, Simmons was ensign, and colors. They wrought havoc both inside and outside the house while they remained there. They ate some of Allen's cattle, ground his wheat into mill and hand mill, and trampled his crops of wheat, tobacco, and grain into the ground. The Baconian rebels also plundered the house and stole, among other items, 3 fine saddles, some bridles, 22 pairs of dulles sheets, 6 pairs of New Holland sheets, 56 pillowcases, most of them new, 24 napkins, 2 tablecloths, 24 fine Holland Dulles aprons, 36 fine Dulles towels, 26 women's shifts, most of them fine, Dulles and new, several pairs of sleeves, handkerchiefs, women's head linen of all sorts, a new bed and bolster, 3 pewter basins, 14 new pewter plates, 2 pewter porringers, and 3 mustard pots. Undoubtedly, they drank the contents of large Dutch case with 6 or 7 3-pint bottles in it. They looked unsuccessfully for Allen's silver. They were looking for that silver. They were looking for his silver, okay? Finally, the Baconians fled on the night of December the 27th when British Marines from the ship Young Prince moved up to Surrey from Isle of Wight County. The rebels stole more of Allen's household linen and books by stuffing them into pillowcases, their breeches, and whatever else was handy. Allen later sued the rebels in both Surrey and Charles City County courts for about 25,000 pounds of tobacco for damages. You see, one thing we learn is that they would do it to their own people that looked like them. And this is what Mr. Allen suffered. They were looking for his silver. They took over his house. They ramshacked everything. We just listed everything that they destroyed and took and utilized the whole time they were in his home. But he was able to sue the rebels in both Surrey, Charles City County courts for about 25,000 pounds of tobacco for damages, right? He compromised with some of the smaller men in Charles City and accepted a payment of 250 pounds of tobacco each, but he insisted on full payment from the leaders. Note, the usual name Bacon Castle undoubtedly came from Bacon's rebellion, although there is no evidence that Nathaniel Bacon himself ever came to the plantation or had anything to do with it. Probably the name Bacon's Castle was not used until many years after Bacon's Rebellion. Possibly the name became current after 1769, excuse me, when the Virginia Gazette published 3 articles which described the events of Bacon's Rebellion of 1676. However, the name was not used in the records until 1802. To avoid confusion, the APVA has called the plantation Bacon's Castle regardless of the time period. Okay. Now, I have some more history that I want to go over too as well on this castle. It's very, and the thing about this, you all, that's unique is we still have a dwelling where our ancestors, the enslaved people, uh stayed. It's still standing. It's still standing. So we're going to actually be able to actually go in there and experience and see that. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm pretty excited about that. But let's go over here and talk about this other part of the history, because I've also was told when I was in this house that there was a family that lived in the house. I'm pretty sure it was this house. I'm hoping I'm not getting it confused with another house. I'm pretty sure I'm not getting it confused. But I was told there was a last family that lived in it recently, as maybe the 60s and the 70s. But they died on a road trip, coming from a road trip out of state somewhere, coming back home to the house. And I also got a bonus for you, family. I'm going to share with you all. It's a picture I did in school of the kitchen. Now I'm going to share it with you all. I'm going to share that with you all now before we go to the house. I'm going to share that with y'all now before we go to the house. That way, when y'all see the house, y'all be able to relate to the picture that I drew. And the floor, because I did like a kind of a reconstruction of the kitchen, because the kitchen, they say the kitchen would have been downstairs in the basement. And when we go downstairs in the basement, you're going to be able to see what I reconstructed the kitchen to be, what I redesigned the kitchen to be down there. But first, let's go over, let me share with you guys this history. Let me share with you guys this history. Okay. This next history. Okay, it says, this is a lady that wrote this article, My Family at Bacon's Castle. And I thought this went along nicely with everything I read through, because I looked at this and then I looked at the house lately, and I saw that they had a recent reunion, and this goes along with everything. And she also, the good thing about it is she has pictures with her family, right? And evidently she comes from a black sharecropper, a black man sharecropper. Okay. My Family at Bacon's Castle. Due to the popular demand from a couple of my readers, today's post is about how my mom and her family came to live in Bacon's Castle in the 1920s and the 1930s. First, a little history about the house. Everyone from the little town of Bacon's Castle refers to Bacon's Castle, the house, as the Castle House. It was built by an Englishman, Arthur Allen, in 1665, It's not known how he came to be wealthy, even how he became to be wealthy enough to build such an elaborate house in the Virginia countryside at this time. It was originally referred to as Allen's Brick House, but since being briefly overtaken by supporters of Nathaniel Bacon and used as a fortress during Bacon's rebellion in 1676, it has been known as Bacon's Castle. Bacon most likely was never even on the property. He wasn't. The house was owned by relatively few families. Through the years, the Warren family owned it for 3 generations. Beginning in 1876, they were related to my maternal grandmother, who was also a Warren. The Warren family was one of the wealthiest in our area. My granddad, on the other hand, was a sharecropper. He had my grandma, he and my grandma were parents to 11 children at the time he was asked by the Warrens to farm the land at Bacon's Castle. See, this is the house then. Ain't that nice? So prior to moving into the castle house, my mom and her family had moved many times. She told me that granddaddy was a good farmer and other landowners were constantly making better offers to attempt to lure him to farm their land. See, this is her granddaddy. That's her granddaddy. And don't that look like a black man? Once they moved into Bacon's Castle, they remained there for nearly 20 years. Their youngest child, Sarah, was born in the castle house. Aunt Sarah passed away 2 years ago, but she was always proud to have been born in that historic house. See? And this is Aunt Sarah's future husband, Bill, during World War II. That's the man that her youngest aunt married during World War II. And then what else they got? Okay, during the time my family lived there, the front of the house sported a double-decker wooden front porch. My mom said there was no door to the porch from the second story, but the children would climb through a window and sleep out on the porch during the summer. This photo has been in our family for years, but I'm not sure of its origin. The 1665 portion of the house really isn't visible in this picture. It's hidden from view by the huge tree on the left. Okay, but we can still see it's spectacular how, okay, the children would climb out the window here. You can see the balcony. We can see the balcony, right? Um, and you can see that saying there's no doors to get in and out, but there's windows, and we see those windows, and I guess the children could climb outside and have their night camping out up there, and you can see that. And this is actually they actually had a picture still of that. And I don't remember if the house kept that, but we'll see. 2:30 we'll be there and we'll be able to see. Okay. And here's my Aunt Lucille in front of the house, sitting in an Adirondack chair. A lot of you can get into antiques and make a lot of money with antiques. Most likely made by my daddy. But it depends. It depends. There's not many people who really are into that anymore. But it once was the thing. That you can probably find a very small number of people that's still into the antiques. And it's a lot of money into the antiques. I've always loved this picture of my mom and grandma with my sisters. Maybe they were enjoying watermelon on a hot summer day. See? I'm sure I was probably told why the family moved from the castle house after all of those years, but I don't recall the reason. And sadly, I don't think there's anyone left that I can ask. There's much more family history relating to the castle house, and I may share some of that from time to time. What I'm unable to put into words is the feelings that comes over me when I step foot on the land there. It's feelings that shared by my son, my sister, my nieces, and most likely many of my cousins. Even though none of us actually lived in the castle house, the presence there of our family is so very strong. I think the word that comes closest to describing it is home. It's home. Okay. And you see, this is some of the acres of the land. And I guess the fog over the castle, you can see the fog over the castle from a distance. That's a wonderful. Oh, this is just people making comments on the story. But you see, there we go. You know, now let me get started sharing this my pictures. My pictures. What I put them at? Let me get the setup together, and then I'll share with you my pictures, the design of the kitchen and the basement before Hold on, family. I gotta get some lighting. This is the picture, family, that I drew of me designing the kitchen for downstairs, the modern kitchen. I gave it this type of ceiling, a wooden ceiling. I gave it like a pebblestone back wall, cobblestone back wall, and cobblestone flooring, I should say. And I wanted to give it updated. What style did we say this was? High. Oh my gosh. I put it in the description. Hold on. Let me get it. Jacobean. Jacobean style kitchen. So I did that, right? So this is what I did for the kitchen. This is how I did the kitchen. And then I also kind of redesigned that whole downstairs, that whole basement area. What I did with that whole basement area, which you're gonna see when we get to the house, is I also redid the floor plan. I also redid the floor plan of it. See, I made a mistake, and luckily, unfortunately, once you get started on working this, doing all this hard work, you got to make sure you're doing it right, because I should have brought it out to here. But you get the idea. Y'all get the idea of what I was trying to do. This is my refrigerator, and I added windows because I don't know. I think there is windows. I think there is a window downstairs in the basement. We'll see when we go down there. But this is my redesign of the kitchen, modern day. If it was still in the basement of the house, where we're gonna actually go down in the basement, but in those times and days in a Jacobean house, the kitchen was in the basement. So I thought it would be nice. Oh, I can't get to the comments because my computer wants to act slow. Okay, it'll eventually work its way. Okay, but here's the floor plan. And I also put behind the kitchen a food storage. But this is my floor plan. This is my floor plan for that whole kitchen. That was my floor plan for that whole kitchen that I did. That's my floor plan for the whole kitchen that I did. You can see that I put my ice box there, and that I have a door for that storage behind the back, and that everything you see here on the actual drawing of what the kitchen looks like, you also see on the floor plan. You can also see on the floor plan. So, with all that said, family, I'm gonna start getting ready to. I'm gonna do one more video. I'm gonna do my last video on Brother Polite before we leave out the house, because I see I got some more time to kill. And I want to get that video out of the way because I want to do another video later on tonight. So, family, get ready to come right back, because I'm going to do that my last time I'm going to talk about Brother Polite. And I felt like this was important for people's information when it comes to us trying to strive from getting out of the red into getting to the purple, the high level. And I've been talking about these things for a long, long time. I've been talking about and warning our people of how we've been influenced unconsciously to take on something, and I've been also something that is detrimental to us, to our energy. And I really appreciate you all being here. And also, don't forget, 2:30, we're going to be at the Castle's house, and you're going to be able to see. You're going to be able to see how I was inspired to do this kitchen in the basement. You're going to be able to see what inspired me to do this kitchen in the basement. And of course, my dream is to be an interior designer, but I am an interior designer artist. But it's all about who, what world do you want to design? Do you want to design in heaven, or do you want to design in this world that is where we have many children suffering and we have people starving? It doesn't make sense. But with that said, family, we got lots of things going on today. And I'm gonna remind you, I'm doing a video right after this, and it's gonna be the last time I talk about Brother Polite. But I felt like it was a learning experience, so we definitely have to, deal with the learning, what we're benefiting from, and then we're gonna take the road trip to the Bacon's Castle. So, with that said, stay tuned. True love, real peace, and the higher self within the soul. Peace.